Good morning and welcome back to the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show. I am your host, Todd Schnick, joined by my friends and colleagues Carol Morgan and Todd Youngblood. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Todd, how about you?
Almost as good as Carol.
Good. March frickin' 1st.
I'm still not used to 2013 for crying out loud.
Good Lord. Well, we have a really exciting show today. I want to say hello to our first guest. Say hello to Thom Abbott, an associate broker with Thomas Ramone Realty at Palmer House Properties. Welcome to the show, Thom.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have you. It's good to see you. It's been too long.
Yeah, way too long.
All right. Well, Thom, before we get into it, do take a sec and tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Well, a lot of people don't know that I'm actually from Montana. So I got my degree in hotel and restaurant management from the Conrad Hilton School of Hotel and Restaurant Management at University of Houston. So after I finished school there, I was in the hotel business and bounced around the country. I've lived in Houston and New Orleans, Myrtle Beach, Miami, Atlanta, and New York. So kind of covered some ground there. Got my real estate license in 2004 and got my broker's license in 2007.
You've lived some very cool places. One of the things you're known for in Atlanta is your blog. So talk to us a little bit about mymidtownmojo.com.
I got to interrupt and say that is such a great name. I love the URL.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, when I first launched it in 2009, I hired a company to build the site for me, and it was basically a disaster. I had it for a year, and it did absolutely nothing. So I joined up with a group in 2010 of about 7 other agents around the country. We created our own kind of mastermind group, and from that point, I decided to relaunch it. It's a niche market site about Midtown Atlanta and the surrounding communities. And I relaunched it and was able to put on a WordPress site where I could manage it, and it's just done wonders for me as far as moving ahead now. It's basically a real estate and community resource for Midtown Atlanta and the surrounding areas around Midtown, featuring community pages about the different buildings or communities. And then I also put market reports. There's a robust home search feature on there that people can use and register to search for homes really all over Atlanta, but certainly I try to get people from Midtown. And then just other interesting information about Midtown that I find.
Yeah, the content for your blog, are you creating all that, or do you have a team? Are multiple people contributing?
I do it all. The only thing that is there's some different social media things you can use out there. People may have heard things like Scoop It or Paper IL. So there's different ways like that I can go out and find content. If I'm reading a story, like say in the AJC or the Atlanta Business Chronicle, I'll pick that story up and I can use a feature called Scoop It, which will take a little part of that and put it on the blog for me, and it gives credit back to that article, just that I get content that way as well.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. It's interesting that you bring that up. There's so many people out there that don't seem to understand this little thing called copyright law and how the appropriate way to attribute content is. So it's great to see you doing that.
Yeah, in real estate you'll find a lot of people like borrow pictures from other people's listings and stuff like that, and I'm very adamant. I did a search on my computer the other day, and I've got 27,000 pictures on my computer.
Wow.
From all the pictures I just constantly snap, so I've always got my own.
It's nice for you to politely say borrow pictures, but on a completely different subject, how is the real estate market in Midtown? What does it look like for buyers? If you're in the market to buy, what's out there?
Not a lot, believe it or not. I often tell people, if you remember the crazy market back in 2006 and 2007 where there were cranes everywhere and we were like, how are we going to fill these? Now it's just exactly the opposite. I mean, I have condominium buildings in Midtown that used to have 30 and 40 listings in them, that now some of them have 2 and 3 listings.
Wow.
So if you're out working with a buyer, it can be kind of difficult to get them to understand, well, we want to see more. There isn't more to see. This is all that's available in the market right now. So it's really difficult to get buyers to understand that.
Well, what about the seller side? I mean, that's kind of an obvious question, but I'm a little bit taken aback that there's not more available. I was under the impression lots of folks were holding back and just staying put because the market was so bad from the seller side.
Well, that's very true. Because if you purchased back in 2006 and 2007, there's the possibility you purchased at the high end of the market, and now we're at that lower end of the market, and you may not be able to put your home on the market unless you're willing to go through the short sale process and do that. So some people are sitting on their homes. What we're finding now is those people that are willing and able to sell and put their home on the market at the right price will probably be in a multi-bid situation very quickly. I'll give you a case in point. Last May, I listed a condominium in Midtown. It was a lower priced unit, but in a great building. I put it on the market at 9:30 in the morning, and it was under contract, full price, cash offer at 9 p.m. that night.
Wow. Holy cow.
And on that note, we'll be back with Thom Abbott after this short commercial break. All right, and we're back with Thom Abbott, Associate Broker with Thomas Ramone Realty at Palmer House Properties.
So Tom, before the break, you shared with us that there's just not much left in Midtown, but maybe this isn't a fair question, but there's been a ton in Midtown over the last few years. Tell us about some of your favorite properties and what do you like to sell?
Oh wow, put me on the spot. I would probably say out of all the buildings that have built over the years, Viewpoint Midtown is one of my most favorite. It's a Novair building. It was probably their flagship and their evolution of Jim Borders and his process of building condominium buildings, that each one just got a little bit better, and by the time they got to Viewpoint, it's kind of like they figured it out. They've duplicated that building in Tampa, I believe it's in Nashville, and it may be in Austin as well. So,
Well, talk a little bit more about the details. What is it about that construction and design that is cool?
well, one thing with all of their buildings is their security. When you enter the building, there's multiple levels of security to get in the building. I deal with a lot of single females that are purchasing homes, and they're really concerned about security. All the elevators are coded, so you can only go to your floor, your parking level, and the amenities. So if someone gets in the building, let's say someone has a party or whatever, and they walk out the door and leave, the only place they can go is back to the lobby. They can't wander all over the building. And then the amenities, they just did an excellent job. On one side of the building, they've got a beautiful rooftop Zen garden with an outdoor living room with gas grills, a flat screen TV, a gas log fireplace. You have a beautiful club room. And then you go to the other side, and there's a gorgeous lap pool with even more grilling area and seating area. It feels like you're in a resort.
That's super cool. So what trends are you seeing among buyers?
Right now, of course, one of the big things is we're back to FHA financing. I remember, excuse me, when I started in the market, I didn't know what FHA financing was. No one did that back then. And now, of course, FHA is all it's what we're back to, simply because of it's a lot less money for people to put down, since we don't have this 100% financing anymore. And that can be a challenge, because sometimes you'll have buildings that aren't FHA approved to have to go through a process for that to happen. So then sometimes we're working with a buyer that can't buy in a particular building because of the financing they're using. I also find that this limited inventory makes buyers hesitant to buy. They seem to think, well, maybe I should wait just a little bit longer. Maybe something else will come along.
Yeah, the price is going to go up.
Well, and I just did my 2010 review of all the major buildings in Midtown, and put that post out on my blog. And there are only 2 buildings out of, I think, 20 that I track that had either flat or negative price appreciation. Every other building increased in price from 2011 to 2012.
Wow.
The prices are going up.
Talk a little bit about strategy. Let's say I'm in the market, I want to buy something in Midtown. I mean, how should I go about it? What kind of questions should I ask? What should I do?
I think the first thing that you want to do is you want to be, well, there's kind of 2 ways. You can either first pick who you want to work with, i.e. a realtor like myself, a real estate agent like myself, or the thing I'll often tell people is, first of all, get pre-approved. It's the thing you need to do first. I mean, there can be things hiding in your credit that you just don't know anything about. And that will come out somewhere down the road, and it's better we find out about it up front. But I also tell buyers, I said, just because you may qualify for a $250,000 mortgage doesn't mean you want that kind of mortgage payment. You might have a dollar amount in mind. So that way we can turn around and say, well, gosh, I really only want to pay $1,500 a month. That will buy me X amount of property. Then we can tailor our shopping experience to that. The last thing I ever want to do to a buyer is show them a $250,000 condo, and they find out later they can only afford $175,000. They're very disappointed.
I've got another question.
Go ahead.
Thom, I understand that you have a little finger on the pulse of the movie business, too.
Yeah, well, sort of. I've actually done a little bit extra work. Of course, the movie business has started here in Atlanta, and it's really taken off. We're now basically second in movie production to Hollywood. A lot of people have moved from Hollywood here. We've got several studios that have opened up. They took the Lakewood Theater and changed that into a movie theater, or movie studio. Tyler Perry has his big studio that he built and opened here. There's a new one that's coming now out in Conyers. I'm going to its grand opening here in a couple weeks. And all this, basically started from the Georgia Production Partnership, which I'm involved in as well on their membership committee. And that they basically just worked with the legislature to get the tax credit and bring this type of business here. It's kind of neat. It gives Atlanta some exposure, certainly from the movie business. It's unfortunate that sometimes the movies will be filmed here, but then when they're put out, they're actually like it's an entirely different city, and it's not really in Atlanta. But it still gives us some great exposure because people know that they've been filmed here.
Well, the three of us want to be extras in a future film. So
No, you don't. You want a leading role that pays much better.
Yeah, but now you're assuming we have talent.
I have the leading role in this studio, and that's all the world can handle. Thom, we're out of time. Before we let you go, how can people get in touch with you? Where can I learn more about Thomas Ramone Realty? And once again, what's the website?
My website is mymidtownmojo.com, and my phone number is 770-713-1505.
Thom Abbott, associate broker with Thomas Ramone Realty at Palmer House Properties. It was great to see you. Thanks for making time to join us.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
All right, the deal today is next, but stay tuned for Molly Gunn and Todd DiMatteo, who represent two of Atlanta's best beer pubs.